All right, Grandma, tell me a time that your mother or your dad were disappointed, angry, disciplined you, and
No, they weren't. Except that one time my dad slapped me. I told you about that.
right.
That's the only time that.
You got disciplined one time. I thought your mother was like the hard one of the family.
Well, you didn't. In those days, you didn't misbehave. Between the nuns and your parents, you were a good person,
Good kid.
a good kid. Yeah, and I was a good kid anyway.
You never stole.
No,
As a kid, you never stole anything.
no, that was a sin.
Well, I remember stealing when I was a kid, and I knew it was a sin.
I went to Catholic school. You didn't.
I went to Catholic Sunday school.
No, I told you my mother was a champion knitter, though, didn't I?
Maybe.
Yeah, and we were poor. We couldn't afford the tuition, so she knit sweaters for the nuns.
That's how she afforded school?
My tuition, yeah.
Wow. How long does it take her to make a sweater?
I don't know, but she won every prize at State Fair that they had every year.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, she was a champion knitter.
Do you still have any of the things that she knitted? I think there's like a quilt going around. Or maybe not a quilt, but like a blanket that looked pretty knitted.
Not that I have. Maybe Lorraine has, but. And then Lorraine took after that too, like cooking and like my mother, and sewing. My mother didn't sew, but Lorraine sewed. But I didn't do anything. To me, it was all music.
And was any of your family into music?
My brother was, but he wasn't as good as I was. He had to read everything, where I could play everything by ear.
Mm.
And he used to admire me for that because he couldn't do it.
What age were you able to just do music by ear?
What?
What age were you able to just do music by ear?
When I was little, I would sit and watch him play the piano. And then when I was about 5 years old, I'd hear something and I could sit down and pick it out.
At 5?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? You could pick it out, like in the keyboard?
On the piano.
So pretty much from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
you learned by your ear.
Yeah, and I had not perfect pitch, but
Relative.
perfect relative pitch, they call it. If you give me one note, I could tell you what key you were in and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I liked playing by ear because then you could improvise,
Of course.
Yeah.
Did your parents ever get in trouble? Did they have big stories?
Oh, no.
Any trouble with the law?
No, are you kidding?
They never got speeding tickets from Grandpa Roy?
No, but that time I got a counterfeit bill when I was playing at center stage, for the head mafia guy. And when we went in the store and they said it was counterfeit, and I had to go to the bank, and they said, "Where did you get that?" And I was so naive, I was about ready to say, "Well, in my paycheck." And my mother kicked me. She says, "Oh, we got it shopping." My mother's really sharp.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to,
Out anybody.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, she was a sharp lady. So when I got to work then and told him, he whipped out a $20 bill and gave it to me. And after that, I was always invited to any of his family doings because he knew that
Hold
I
on,
could
Grandma.
be trusted.
Go ahead.
Because he knew I could be trusted,
Right.
Yeah.
What about Aunt Lorraine? Did Aunt Lorraine was she a big troublemaker?
No. She was too busy sewing and knitting and doing housekeeping stuff.
Uncle Lawrence?
No, he just the time he got his radio stolen and he got in trouble for that.
He got a radio stolen, then he got in trouble.
Well, yeah, because he was just given that for his birthday or something, and he was with his friends they were sitting on the stair step outside, and they heard a siren, and they all ran off to see what was happening. And he came back, and his radio was gone. And oh yeah, he got it from my dad for that. That's the only time I remember.
When you were growing up, did you know people who ever got in trouble? Like, like you talk about these nuns, and you talk about your parents being really hard.
My dad used to tell us stories about the mafia. They called it the Black Hand when he was growing up, and they would meet at this one restaurant, like on a Tuesday night.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he'd tell us stories like that, but nothing he ever went to or was interested in. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were growing up, you had your parents and you had the nuns directing everybody, and things were very strict.
Yeah.
And it was also how you depict the world in those days is that people generally behaved. I've heard this many times from people that kids were much more well behaved than they were.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but you also, I also hear about you complaining about the nuns. So just from my experience with you, I can't tell if you're happy with the nuns or you're disappointed with the nuns.
You had to do what they said. I mean, whether happy or not, you were there, and they were the authority.
So if you were to go back in time, would you appreciate the nuns more? Would you not, or would you put your kid in? Like, you didn't put Mom through Catholic school. You didn't want her to go through Catholic school. Which would tell me that you don't approve of the way Catholic nuns.
Well, I wasn't married to a Catholic to start with.
Okay. But.
And no, and I remember one time I didn't realize this, but we had to do a piano recital. I think I was in about 6th grade, and the nun that taught 6th grade always, when I went for my lesson, like at a lunchtime, to the piano teacher's room, she was always there after lunch. And I always used to think, why is she sitting there with the piano teacher when I come in? But yeah, I didn't realize that the nuns were all gay, and so that was probably her friend. So then, when it was my turn to get up and play my piano thing, I got up to the piano and she said, "Where's your music?" I says, "Well, I don't need it. I have it memorized." She said, "Oh no, you sit down. You have to have your music." And I thought, what's wrong with her?
Right, that's not good.
But the piano teacher told her that we have to get up there with our music because all the kids probably had to. But I didn't because I was so ahead,
Right.
And so I thought, what's wrong with her? And I was really disappointed that she did that because I didn't understand why.
But that seems more of a individual complaint. But I'm talking about in the general. Like, you didn't want Mom, you didn't care that Marie and I didn't go to Catholic school. It's the way you talk about it, Catholic school, you have disappointment. You're not a big fan of Catholic school with the nuns slapping the wrists and this.
Oh, they didn't do that.
With the wrists and the rulers?
No.
They didn't do that?
No.
What did they do?
No. You'd have to stay after school.
Okay.
That's what. But I never had to because I never been misbehaved. And they all felt sorry for me because I think when I was in about the 3rd grade or so, I started losing my hair. And then they felt sorry for me, so they were
easier on you.
Nicer to me. Yeah.
That's nice of them.
Yeah.
I still haven't got my answer I'm looking for.
Oh, why?
I'm curious because you talk so heavily that you are against the way Catholic schools were run in your day. But now you also say that kids are more disrespectful today, which leads me to think that you approve of what they were doing. So I'm
Well, I approve of the time, but it was not only the nuns, the parents were stricter too, and the relatives were stricter. You couldn't talk back to any of them, It was a stricter time. So, but, yeah, I thought there was more. What was that, the wind? And my seat started to shake. Oh, that's your leg. I think there's more opportunity in public school for extracurricular stuff and
Oh, okay.
more opportunity. It isn't as limited.
I would assume, fast forwarding, 80 years, the Catholic schools also have more opportunities.
Oh yeah, because Reagan and Cooper go,
Of course.
So I don't know what that's like today, but
Yeah, they do soccer and gymnastics. I don't think
Yeah.
it's associated with the school, but I'm sure they
Yeah.
have extracurricular things that they could do as they get older.
yeah. So, and maybe we didn't live around a Catholic school at the time. I don't remember,
Right.
because you had to live in, like in that section of town.
When you were a kid?
No, when I was raising my.
Oh, when you were raising mom?
Yeah. It's just a different time, David.
So if you had a chance to go back to Catholic school in those days, would you put yourself through that, or would you try to find a different way?
Well, I don't know. When Auntie Lorraine and I got to, I was, let's see, ninth grade, and she was 10th, and she hated it. And so she finally got my folks to let us go to a public school. And I remember, oh God, I felt like I was out of jail because
Oh, wow.
the teachers, it was an all-girls school to start with. And the teachers were like regular women,
Right, married with their own children.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so different than the Catholic school, and I loved it.
Oh, cool.
And that's where I started playing the organ. So.
And what grade was that?
Let's see, I was in ninth, but I had played the piano, and I was in the choir and all. I had experience, but they didn't have an organ. But somebody donated a Hammond organ that got famous, that wrote a famous cookbook, and they put it in the auditorium. And I remember seeing just before a man came to play a recital for us, that I